When a cop insults a black man in a park, the incredible truth revealed shakes him forever. On a radiant Saturday afternoon, the sun beamed down on Oakwood Park, where families danced in the delight of the moment. Laughter floated in the air, children ran carefree, and the aroma of sizzling barbecues filled the warm breeze. But an undercurrent of tension was brewing, and it was about to explode. Marcus, a devoted father in his early 30s, was setting up a picnic blanket with his 2 kids, their smiles radiating innocence. He loved these moments, the sweet laughter of his children, the life lessons he would share about hard work, respect, and community. He was a man of dreams, weaving hopes for a better future for his family, even as economic uncertainty loomed like dark clouds. Yet today, the clouds gathered faster than expected. A police officer approached, looking at Marcus as if he were an intruder in this suburban paradise. "What are you doing here?" The officer sneered, his voice sharp like a knife cutting through the laughter and joy surrounding them. The words struck Marcus deeply, igniting a fire within him that was as confusing as it was infuriating. He was taken aback. What did this man see when he looked at him? Did he really believe he was out of place here? Marcus felt his throat tighten, his heart racing, struggling to maintain calm for the sake of his children. The tension escalated, drawing curious glances and whispers from nearby picnicking families. "What is going on?" someone murmured. As Marcus tried to explain himself, the officer's biases grew heavier, crushing the peaceful atmosphere and turning what should have been a cherished family outing into a battle against injustice. The laughter around them began to fade, replaced by hushed conversations echoing the raw emotions pulsing through the crowd. Indignation, disbelief, uncertainty. Just as voices rose and impatience edged toward chaos, another figure stepped forward, a veteran neighbor who had spent years living across the street but had never truly known Marcus. "Wait," he shouted. "You need to hear this." The crowd leaned in, caught in a strange, collective silence. The veteran spoke of the officer's past, a life tangled in prejudices born from his own experiences, struggles he faced while growing up in a world that judged people by the color of their skin. The shock rippled through the park. Some gasped, others furrowed brows in contemplation, a moment of truth that reshaped the entire narrative unfolding beneath the oak tree. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the story hung in the air like suspended breath, Marcus found himself at a crossroads, a choice weighing heavily on him. Could he find it in his heart to forgive? Could there be space for redemption amidst the shadows of bias and preconceived notions? As the dust settled, and emotions spun like leaves in a brisk wind, Marcus stared into the eyes of his children. Fear replaced by resolve, he knew that his next move could change everything. Would he open a path toward understanding, or demand justice for the breach of trust in their once safe community? As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, the question echoed in his mind. In a world filled with division, could they forge a bond strong enough to heal wounds yet unhealed? Marcus stood there, feeling the weight of his own heartbeat echoing in his ears. He could see the confusion in his children's eyes, the innocent disbelief that their fun day had turned into a scene they would never forget. Shadows danced across the park as the sun made its slow descent. He felt the gaze of onlookers, a mix of sympathy and judgment, but he couldn't focus on them. His world had narrowed, and the choice laid out before him felt pivotal. He took a deep breath, the air heavy with the smell of grilled hot dogs and burning charcoal. "Sir," he finally said, quieting the storm brewing inside him. "I don't want this to escalate. I just came to enjoy a day with my kids." He hoped that by treating the officer with calmness, he might cut through the tension. The officer's face remained stern, yet something flickered in his eyes. Doubt? Surprise? The crowd held its breath, teetering on the edge of confrontation or reconciliation. The older neighbor stepped closer, his voice steady. "Do you realize what you're doing?" he implored, looking directly at the officer. "Can't you see the impact this is having on these kids?" Pressure mounted as silence enveloped the park. The officer's jaw tightened. It was as if he stood at the center of a tug-of-war, caught between duty and humanity. Marcus seized the moment, his resolve taking shape like a rising tide. "You don't know me, and I don't know you," he said, locking eyes with the officer. "But we're both just trying to navigate this world. Can't we find common ground instead of this animosity?" At that moment, a child from a nearby picnic called out, "Can you please stop fighting? We just want to play." The innocence in the little girl's voice sliced through the tension, bringing forth a ripple of laughter and a collective sigh from the crowd. Yet, in that brief laugh came a stark reality. What if this moment of levity didn't bring reconciliation, but further division? The officer shifted slightly, but didn't respond. Marcus felt frustration bubbling within. He wanted more than reconciliation. He wanted to avoid a fracture in his community. "Please," he added, voice firmer now, "understand that my family belongs here just as much as anyone else. We're not here to cause trouble, but to enjoy a day together. What can we do to move past this?" As the last rays of sunlight illuminated the park, Marcus keenly felt the weight of the collective gaze. Some whispered compassion, others murmured confusion. The officer took a deep breath, his frustration softening, but it was clear his pride stood ready to fight back. The crowd leaned closer, a branch of people connecting. Witnessing this moment of potential change, in the silence that ensued, the officer's face finally softened, just a touch. Perhaps it was a glimpse of vulnerability or a sense of humility. Whatever it was, Marcus recognized it. This was the moment when bridges could either be built or completely burned. What happened next would be telling. Marcus felt the energy shift in the air around them, and he held on to a flicker of hope. Would the officer let down his guard? Would the community come together, or would old wounds tear them apart once again? The sunset bathed them all in gold as the officer readied his words, and with the crowd watching, the next moments could shape the future. Would this be the dawn of understanding, or would it plunge deeper into darkness? In that breathless anticipation hung a question that danced in the air. Could they transform this encounter into a stepping stone for change? The officer glanced around, his eyes flicking to the children, then back to Marcus. He cleared his throat loudly, the tension in the air palpable. For a moment, Marcus thought he caught a flicker of understanding. "I'm just doing my job," the officer said at last, but the edge in his voice was fading, replaced by something softer. Marcus felt the fight in him ease just a little. "I understand that. But part of your job is to protect, not just enforce. We're all on the same team here, right?" He gestured to the families nearby, sitting under the dusky sky, some holding hands, others laughing, eating hot dogs. Was it possible, he thought, that everyone here wanted the same thing? Safety, joy, a moment of ease, but doubt still hung in the officer's eyes. The crowd watched with bated breath, each person a witness to an aching moment. A small boy, clutching a soccer ball, stepped forward. "Can we play now?" he asked, his voice echoing with the pure simplicity of youth. The officer looked at the boy, his frown deepening momentarily before it broke. The slightest hint of a smile touched his lips. The crowd responded with a soft murmur, a ripple of hope that warmed the air like the fading sunlight. "Playing soccer won't solve all our problems," the officer said, more to himself than to anyone else. Despite the words, his shoulders relaxed a notch, and Marcus seized the moment. "Maybe, but it's a start. Kids need to feel safe and happy. They shouldn't have to worry about any of this." The officer's eyes searched Marcus's, and for a fleeting second, the distance between them faded. The park sparkled with laughter from the children, a gentle reminder of the light that could break darkness. And then, as if guided by an unseen hand, the officer took a small step closer to Marcus. "Look," he said, his voice steadier now. "I get it. It's a tough situation for everyone. I didn't mean for any of this to go so far. He paused, and the breath he took was deep, as if carrying the weight of his own reflections. "I thought I was protecting our community." Marcus sensed the officer wrestling with himself, a battle of hearts, echoing the conflicts that swirled around them all. "We're all part of this community," he replied, his tone even but resonant. "Let us start showing that too. Together." A flicker of hope ignited in the crowd. Then something unexpected happened. The older neighbor, who had stood by throughout, shared a small laugh, breaking the last traces of tension. "You know, I'm not sure who is more disruptive here, the cop or the kids trying to play. His words brought laughter back into the fold, and Marcus watched as the officer smiled again, this time more freely. All right, the officer said, chuckling, let us put the humor to the test. Who wants to play soccer? He shifted his weight, inviting an unexpected dynamic to the scene. Kids squealed and rushed forward, their joy infectious. Marcus felt a warmth blooming inside him, a flicker of unity pushing back against division. The crowd gradually parted, making way for laughter and game. It felt surreal, the officer, once the source of chaos, stepping into a role of camaraderie. But as the ball bounced around and laughter filled the park, the shadows of their histories loomed over them, unresolved. There was still work to be done, conversations yet to be had. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Marcus remained hopeful. Would this game bridge their differences, or would hidden fears resurface? As the evening progressed, with the sound of cheers melting into the twilight, an unfamiliar question bubbled within him. How could they ensure these moments kept happening, not just today, but for tomorrow? The beauty of the evening felt fragile, and he wanted to hold on to it. Could they maintain this promise of connection? He wondered, glancing around at the smiles that surrounded him. And as he watched the children play, a thought struck him with brewing intensity. What did it truly mean to protect those moments going forward? The game unfolded like a scene from a movie, a tapestry of laughter woven through the air. Children darted across the grass, their joyful shouts echoing like music. Marcus stood at the sidelines, his heart swelling at the sight of the officer kicking the soccer ball, clumsily at first, but gaining confidence with every interaction. Even the officer's uniform seemed to soften against the backdrop of children chasing the ball, their carefree spirits lifting the weight of the world just for a moment. Parents peered from behind picnic blankets, their expressions shifting from anxiety to relief. The shadows that loomed before felt like mere whispers in comparison to the exuberance unfolding before them. But within this bubble of joy, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was just delaying the inevitable. Life had a way of throwing challenges when you least expected them. The officer's earlier words echoed in his mind. I thought I was protecting our community. There was honesty there, but the truth was layered with complexity. As the children began organizing teams, Marcus glanced at the officer. He could see the man's smile was growing more genuine, yet the weight of unspoken questions lingered in the air. Uncertainty washed over him like a tide. Would this peaceful moment linger, or would it evaporate with the setting sun? Hey, Marcus. The voice pulled him from his thoughts. It was Tara, a community leader, beloved for her warm spirit and wise words. What is on your mind? He hesitated, nervously shifting on his feet. I want to ensure this happens again. I want us to keep talking, to feel connected, especially after everything that has happened. Tara nodded thoughtfully, her eyes taking in the scene. You know, sometimes people just need someone to start the conversation. You jumped in there today, which is so important. She looked to the officer, who was now playfully getting tackled by a group of kids. Maybe we all need reminders that we can put our barriers down. It really comes down to trust. Trust. The word danced in Marcus's mind like a fragile flame. He liked that idea, but what if trust was as elusive as it seemed? Was it possible to build a bridge over the chasms of misunderstanding and fear? The doubts whispered again, pricking at his optimism. The game continued, kids laughing and cheering, yet Marcus felt his heart weighed down by thoughts he couldn't shake. As twilight deepened, he caught the officer's gaze, their eyes locking for a moment. There was something shifting in the air, a silent understanding brewing amidst the chaos. Just then, the small boy from earlier approached, his face flushed with excitement. Can I take a turn as goalie? He asked, innocent and bright. The officer nodded, ruffling the boy's hair. In that instant, a surge of joy surged through Marcus. He wanted to believe that these moments could evolve. They could transform into something bigger. But as the laughter intensified around him, doubts nagged at the back of his mind. How could they ensure that beyond this night, something real came out of it? Marcus, Tara called again, breaking into his thoughts. You have to help us keep this alive. You see how it feels. Let us organize a neighborhood meeting, a chance to share stories, to bring even more connection. A promise hung in the air, heavy with a weight he knew all too well. It was a chance to bring forward the discussions that needed to happen, to confront the fears and forge connections despite their differences. As he looked around at the gathering crowd, the warmth of hope and anxiety washed over him. Will they embrace this? He thought. Would the laughter in the park today lead to laughter in town hall meetings? The questions pulsed in his mind, bouncing off the connections made. And as the last light of day slipped away, Marcus stood amid the joy, wondering with deepening urgency, what would it take to make this community's ties strong enough to hold them together when the darkness returned? As twilight cloaked the park, the laughter of children danced against the backdrop of an encroaching night. Marcus shifted his gaze over the gathering, embracing both the shadows and the sparks of light weaving through the evening. He felt the heat of possibility mixed with the familiar chill of doubt. The questions he had were beginning to feel like a relentless tide. Hey, Tara's voice broke into his contemplation, her tone warm, yet firm. Let us get everyone together. I want you to help lead this moment. It's time to talk. Marcus swallowed hard. How could he step up when even his own heart whispered hesitations in his ear? What do you mean? You want me to lead? Why not? Everyone respects you. You've already taken the first step, she replied, gesturing at the scene, the joy spilling over like sunlight. Kids sprinted, parents smiled, and connected through quiet exchanges. Look at this. We need to capture it while we can, before life pulls us back into our corners. He hesitated, thoughts racing. The idea of jumping into uncharted waters was terrifying. What if he stumbled? What if he couldn't find the right words? Before he could respond, Tara turned to address the crowd. Everyone, can I have your attention for a moment? Children paused mid-chase, glancing at their parents. Adults leaned in, curiosity lighting their faces. The officer, still catching breath from his playful skirmish, stood for a moment, taking in the unexpected unity forming before him. Marcus has some thoughts he wants to share, Tara declared, stepping aside with an encouraging nod. All eyes shifted to him. Heart racing, he took a step forward, swallowing hard. Hi everyone. Electricity pulsed through him, igniting something both terrifying and exhilarating. I know today has been really fun, but I think we've seen that we can be more than just people passing by. We have the chance to connect, to understand what each other feels. His voice cracked slightly, and he felt a wave of warmth and courage pool deep inside. We've all had different experiences, and each of them matters. But together, we can create a space where we really listen. The faces before him reflected hope, curiosity, and some wariness. He pressed on, driven by a sudden wave of determination. Trust is fragile. It's something we have to decide to build every day. We can't let fear hold us back. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. He spotted the officer nodding, his expression a mix of pride and something deeper vulnerability. Perhaps as Marcus spoke, he shared his own story, a childhood filled with fear due to misunderstandings, moments where he wished silence had triumphed over discussion. I want us all to meet, to share our stories, he concluded, voice steady as he looked out over the crowd. Let us break down the walls, one by one. A small boy, the same one who had just been goalie, raised his hand spontaneously. Can I tell about my dog? He beamed with excitement, innocence bubbling up in the moment of tension. Laughter erupted, breaking the seriousness briefly. Yes, buddy. Marcus smiled, heart lifting as the boy launched into a cheerful story about his mischievous pups. The crowd leaned in, laughter restoring the lightness. Marcus could feel the warmth of connection filling the air. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could build a bridge together. But amidst this blossoming hope, a thought lingered heavily in his heart. Would the connections made tonight withstand the tribulations that lay ahead? The echoes of laughter were sweet, but how long would it take for silence to descend again? He peered at the officer, who was now playfully corralling the children as the sun slipped further away. That unsteady connection was beginning to take root, yet Marcus wasn't naive enough to think it would be easy. As the last giggles faded, he thought of the meeting Tara suggested. Would it really happen? And if so, who would come to share? The current of uncertainty pulled at him once more, whispering fears of doubt into the warm glow of hope. Would they stand strong together, or were they just holding on to a moment, content to let everything else slip away? The question settled deep within him. He felt more determined than ever to find the answer, not just for them, but for himself as well. What would it take for that trust to grow, rooting them in not just laughter, but understanding too. As darkness settled over the park, the chatter and laughter of families began to ebb, giving way to a more tender atmosphere. Marcus felt a mix of exhilaration and apprehension stirring in him. Tara had stepped back, and the space felt both promising and fragile. Would this sense of unity last? With the children nestled in with their parents, he caught sight of familiar faces, neighbors, colleagues, and even a few friendly strangers. Their expressions shifted from joy to contemplation, silently searching for what came next. The moment hung in the air, rich with possibility. "Hey," the police officer called over, his voice steady yet inviting. He approached Marcus, a subtle tension lingering between them. "You spoke well. It's not easy to get everyone on the same page like that." "Thanks," Marcus replied, surprising himself with how genuine gratitude felt in his voice. "But I wonder if this is enough, if talking is going to change anything." The officer's brow furrowed. "It's a start. Trust needs to be built slowly. And sometimes, it starts with just being seen. You have to let people know you care." "You're right, but I struggle to trust." The admission slipped out before he could filter it, echoing louder than intended. "It's tough when you've seen so much." The officer nodded, his expression softening. "I get that. We're all carrying something, aren't we? Just know that I want to help change how we see each other." Feeling the shift, Marcus forged ahead. "How can we?" "There's a wall between us, one built on fear and misunderstandings." The officer rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture that spoke volumes of his internal conflict. "All we can do is reach out. Maybe even meet each other halfway." More voices drifted over, the speakerhead calling for families to wrap up their picnics and the assembly starting to dissipate. Marcus watched the last few families, the joy of the day sparkling in their eyes, mingling with the residual shadows of their own wares. "I think we need to organize that meeting." Tara's voice broke through his reveries, fierce determination shining in her eyes. "Let us make it happen, not just out here, but in our homes, schools, wherever we can." Marcus felt a fire ignite within him. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned to the officer, searching for any hint of support. "Would you come? Invite others to join? It feels like we could actually start something real." The officer considered him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "If we can get people to listen, I'll be there." A spark of hope ignited between them. Here was a tangible step they could take, something actionable, concrete. But deep down, Marcus still felt the weight of uncertainty. What if old grudges overshadowed this? What if the fears that divided them sank these hopes? But this idea, what if just one person doesn't show? He blurted out, the anxiety creeping back in. Just one argument, one hurtful comment. Would it fall apart? Tara stepped in closer, her eyes wide. "Then we show up again. We keep talking. We build and we mend. If it's not perfect, it doesn't mean it's not worth it." Her fearless outlook was contagious. Marcus recognized that while reaching out could sound simple, it came with risk. But if they could meet, even briefly, it might make all the difference. He thought of the stories he had wanted to share, the heartaches, joys, misunderstandings waiting to be told. As the sun dipped below the treetops, casting long shadows, they stood there, two unlikely allies formed in a moment of vulnerability. But as the last bit of light drained from the park, a sudden shout broke through the evening. "Hey, what is going on over there?" The laughter that had filled the park was replaced with apprehensive murmurs. The sudden tension threatened to unravel the fragile connections they had just begun to weave. Marcus's heart raced. Could this be the rift that tore everything apart? A storm of emotional currents swirled around them, the uncertainty taking shape. Would they be able to confront and mend what was about to happen, or would personal fears tighten the grip of silence once again? The shout echoed across the field, amplified by the cool air of the evening. Marcus turned towards the sound, his pulse quickening. A group of teenagers had circled a smaller, younger boy, their laughter harsh and cutting through the remaining twilight. The boy looked lost, vulnerable, and confusion crossed his face as they mocked him. Marcus's heart sank. Not again. Not here. "Hey," Tara shouted, her voice rising above the din. "You leave him alone." The tension in the air thickened, a palpable force that made Marcus's muscles tighten. He felt the gaze of others, pinning him down like an anchor. The officer stepped forward, authority emanating from him. Yet Marcus could see the uncertainty flash in his eyes. Would this turn into something ugly? "Guys, cut it out. The officer's voice was firm, but Marcus could see some of the teenagers glance at each other, teetering on the edge of defiance. They were weighing their options, deciding whether to back down or escalate. "Who are you to tell us what to do?" One of the older boys shot back, arms folded defiantly. The bravado didn't mask the nervousness that flickered in his eyes. "You think you can just come over here and play hero?" The officer's stern expression softened in a moment of recognition. "I'm just asking you to think about what you're doing. That's a child, and what you're doing isn't right." He moved closer, trying to bridge the gap. Marcus felt an overwhelming urge to intervene. He couldn't stand by. He took a step forward, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "It's not worth it. We're all here together. Can't we just walk away? We're trying to build something better." The teenagers shifted, some muttering under their breath. But then, one girl stepped forward, hands on her hips. "Why should we care? No one cares about us. We're just supposed to sit and take it. Why should we stop?" Tara stepped beside Marcus, her eyes reflecting determination. "Because we can choose to do better. We're all neighbors. Don't you want a community where we look out for one another?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed the teenagers' faces. It wasn't lost on Marcus how fragile the moment was. Would they see the humanity behind the names and labels? Could they connect through the same struggles, the same fears that haunted everyone here? Before anyone could respond, the younger boy broke the silence. "I just wanted to play. I didn't mean to bother you." His voice was small, but it rang out, hitting everyone like a small pebble tossed into a still pond. That moment of vulnerability cracked through the tension. Something changed. The laughter faded, replaced by a cautious silence. The group hesitated. It was as if a spotlight suddenly illuminated the truth they were dancing around: how easily pain could manifest, how easily connections could break. Marcus took a step closer to the boy, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "You're not a bother. You're part of this community. We're all in this together. It's okay to be here." The officer turned back to the group of teenagers. "This isn't about being tough. It's about being human. We've all felt lost at times. It's better when we lift each other up, not tear each other down." Slowly, the group began to shift. A couple of the boys lowered their eyes. Some of the girls glanced at each other, a silent communication passing between them. It felt like change was within their grasp, lingering just at the edge. But just as Marcus felt a glimmer of hope, the lead boy snapped back, pulling the others with him. "Whatever. This is lame." He spun on his heel, attempting to regain control, but the tension had cracked open. The small boy watched them turn away, tears glistening in his eyes. That was all it took for Marcus's heart to break: an innocent face caught in a whirlwind they were all trying to navigate. "We can do better," Tara whispered, squeezing Marcus's arm. "We just have to keep trying." In that moment, Marcus realized that hope wasn't just about perfect endings. Hope was about standing firm when everything felt uncertain, about showing up for the people around you, even when it was hard. As the night deepened, leaving everything cloaked in shadows, Marcus knew they were still at the beginning of something much larger than this single moment. The question lingered heavily in the air. Would they have the courage to follow through even when the stakes felt impossibly high? But what if the darkness wasn't just their hesitation? What if there were deeper secrets lingering in the hearts of their neighbors? Secrets that would either challenge or completely shatter their fledgling connections. Marcus could feel the weight of the night bearing down on him, an oppressive gloom mingling with the uncertainty in the air. The small boy stood there, his tiny shoulders quaking as he fought back tears. Tara squeezed Marcus's arm tighter, her warmth grounding him, but the turmoil within him only grew. What could he do to prevent this from happening again? "Hey," Marcus said softly, still kneeling before the boy. "What's your name?" "Jesse," the boy replied, his voice barely a whisper. Marcus could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, a spark of hope, perhaps, buried beneath layers of hurt. "Jesse, I promise, you're not bothering anyone. You have every right to be here. This is your space too." With every word, he felt the gaze of the other teenagers lingering, curiosity prickling at the invisible walls they had built around themselves. The officer stepped back, assessing the situation anew. "Let us all take a breath," he said, his voice softer now, like the calm after a storm. "We all want to belong, right? It's tough enough out there without fighting among ourselves." Some teenagers exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond to this unexpected turn. Marcus caught a hint of something, a flicker of recognition. It was enlightening, as if the distant sounds of streetlights flickering on outside the city had just entered their circle. But then the lead boy, still simmering with defiance, broke the moment. Whatever, man. We don't need a lecture on feelings. He glanced at his friends, who stood awkwardly in their heels of bravado, no longer sure of which path to follow. But when did we stop caring? Tara leaned into the boy's defiance. When did we decide it was okay to forget kindness? Look around. We all want to fit in. The weight of Tara's words hung in the air. Everyone could feel it, even Jesse. Marcus could see that what had started as a confrontation was starting to morph into a conversation, a dialogue that dared to breach the surface. We should stand together, Marcus added, against anything that tears us apart. He looked at Jesse, then the older kids, some of whom were beginning to fidget. It was as if they were finally awakening to the power of their own voices. Yeah, one of the girls said quietly, her brow furrowing. Why do we act like this? All at once, the scene shifted. Questions began rippling through the crowd, connecting them in unexpected ways. The lead boy's bravado faltered as he lowered his head, grappling with the silence that surrounded him. The community in that small corner of the park was on the verge of rediscovery. Then Jesse spoke again, his small voice breaking through the simmering tension. I just want to play. Don't we all want to be happy? His innocent question landed like a stone in water, sending ripples through everyone present. Exactly. Tara nodded, her eyes shining with passion. We all want to be happy. We all have our battles. How can we fight them if we keep pushing each other down? The night was heavy with emotion, each heartbeat synchronizing with the realization they were all fighting something. The weight of unspoken struggles layered on top of one another, creating a barrier that had silenced them for too long. But just then, a figure emerged from the shadows beyond the trees, an older man with weary eyes watching from a distance. With a precision that caught everyone's attention, he stepped closer, eyebrows drawn tight. What is going on here? He demanded, his tone sharp and protective. Caught off guard, Marcus felt a pang of worry. Would this new presence disrupt the fragile connection forming before him? The lead boy snorted, regaining some of his lost bravado. Just trying to enjoy our night, and these losers keep trying to be all emotional. But the man's gaze was stern and unwavering, and though uncertainty flickered within the group once more, they could sense the change in the air. Questions rose again. Could they confront this new challenge together? Marcus held his breath, all eyes now on the older man. Would he help guide them back to the light, or would he cloud the evening further with doubt? The tension was palpable, and Marcus felt a spark ignite within him. Hope was waiting. But for how long? The man stepped fully into the light, revealing himself not just as an authority figure, but as someone who had seen too much hurt. His face was lined with age and experience, but tonight, he stood like a guardian. The air felt charged, as if the universe was holding its breath with them. You kids, he began, his voice gravelly yet laced with concern. What are you really fighting about? It looks like you could all use a friend. He paused, his gaze flickering from the lead boy to Tara, and then settling on Jesse. You're not meant to be alone in this world. Jesse's eyes brightened at the mention of friendship, the yearning for connection evident in his small frame. Marcus could see a shift within the group, like autumn leaves rustling together, ready to fall from the branches that had confined them. The lead boy, still brimming with bravado, crossed his arms. We don't need no lecture from you. We can take care of ourselves, he said defiantly, but the hard shell he wore seemed thinner now. Cracks appeared like fragile glass beginning to shatter. No one can take care of themselves alone, the man replied, his tone softening. I've seen it. We isolate ourselves, thinking it makes us stronger, but it only makes us lonelier. Marcus felt the weight of those words settle over him like a warm blanket, igniting a sense of unity he anticipated. He knew that feeling. He had been alone once, haunted by his own battles. Could he help them see the power in vulnerability? With a deep breath, he stood up, his heart racing as he added, Yes, right. We're all just trying to find our way. It's hard enough as it is. What if we took a moment to listen instead of argue? Silence fell, pregnant with possibility. In the midst of this quiet, Tara glanced at Marcus, her expression a mixture of hope and trepidation. Would they choose to embrace this moment? The man surveyed the scene before him. Look, I know things can feel overwhelming, he said gently, his voice vibrating with sincerity. But it's when we hold tight to the anger that we lose sight of who we really are. Slowly, the lead boy's shoulders slumped as he shifted on his feet. The other teens exchanged glances, uncertainty clouding their eyes. A barrier was starting to crack, revealing soft spots of understanding. I've been through a lot, the lead boy finally admitted, hesitating as if those words had weights tied to them. Sometimes it feels like no one gets it. I get it, Jesse chimed in, his eyes wide with empathy. I just want us to be friends. And like the gentlest of summer breezes, laughter spilled out, tentative but inviting. The teenagers shifted closer, hesitant to shed their layers of armor but curious enough to peek beneath. The older man smiled, sensing a shift. That's it. Why can't we just start with friendship? A little kindness can go a long way. Marcus could feel the rise of hope within him, but also knew fear. What if this moment slipped away? They needed something to anchor them, a reason to hold on to this feeling of togetherness through the night. He took a step forward. What if we all did something together? Played a game, shared stories, something to break these walls once and for all? The idea was met with nods and murmurs of agreement. Bowl games, capture the flag, whatever they would create could be the start they desperately needed. But just as the mood began to lift, a loud shout broke through the previously tense atmosphere, shattered once again. A group of older teenagers strode into the park, their faces twisted with bravado, eyes scanning the crowd. What is going on over here, huh? One of them called out, smirking. The embers of connection sparked, blowing a chill into their budding tranquility. Marcus felt his heart race. They were suddenly very vulnerable again. Could they gather their courage and stand firm against this new hostility? Or would fear snuff out the light they had just begun to kindle? The air crackled with a tension that felt heavier than before, a potent mixture of uncertainty and impending confrontation. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he glanced around, taking in the faces of those gathered. The once cheerful park was now charged with an undercurrent of anxiety, and he could see the flicker of fear in Jesse's eyes again. Hey, we're just trying to have a peaceful moment here, Tara shot back, her voice carrying strength. It was a small act of defiance, but every shard of courage counted. Peaceful? The lead teenager scoffed, stepping forward, his bravado unfazed by the unease swirling around them. Looks like a bunch of losers trying to make friends. Pathetic. Marcus felt a flash of anger ignite within him, and he stepped forward, the words spilling out before he could stop them. You don't have to come here and ruin what we're trying to build. We're all neighbors. Why can't we just be decent to each other? The laughter that erupted in response only fueled the flames of tension. What is he going to do? Call the cops? One of the newcomers jeered, glancing back at the officer who had just moments ago become a bridge. The officer, caught midway between authority and fellow man, took a deep breath. He looked at Marcus, finding support in a meeting of resolve. Listen, the officer ventured, stepping forward. We're all allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. This isn't about tearing each other down. It's about lifting each other up. You can join us if you want to be part of something good. The words hung in the air, a plea that struggled against the odds. The lead teenager folded his arms defiantly, but beneath the bravado lay uncertainty. Slowly, glimmers of maturity nudged at his own fears, and Marcus grasped that seed of vulnerability. Jesse, still trembling but emboldened by the moment, took a tentative step toward the lead teenager. You don't have to be mean, he said, his small voice steadying. We all just want to play. A silence fell, deep and resonant, wrapping around the group. The weight of Jesse's earnestness seeped through the animosity, softening hearts. Marcus could see the facade of toughness beginning to crack. Just because you don't understand me doesn't give you the right to judge. One of the teenagers from the older group said suddenly, and anger flashed across their faces. What do you know about us? More than you think. The officer interjected, stepping closer to stand between the two groups. Everyone here is fighting their own battle. We're not so different. You all want to belong, right? So why are you fighting each other instead? The faces around him shifted. The simmering heat of anger began to cool. Hesitant glances were exchanged, and Marcus could feel the tide turning not instantly, but slowly and with intention. After what felt like an eternity, the lead boy allowed a smile to break through. Yeah, I guess we're all just trying to fit in. Exactly, Tara chimed in. Why not fit in with kindness and understanding? Join us. Let us create something better together. As laughter echoed around the park, it ignited a collective understanding. The lead teenager turned to his friends, a silent conversation passing between them, and he muttered, "Maybe we could all use a little fun." With that, he tossed the soccer ball into the group, an unexpected gesture that signaled a truce. With laughter breaking out, everyone scrambled to grab it, and suddenly, the barrier began to dissipate. The ensuing game of soccer was wild and chaotic, but amidst the chaos was joy, a shared understanding that formed an unspoken bond. Marcus joined in, kicking the ball playfully as their laughter melded into something they all gravitated toward: connection. Even the officer stepped back to the sidelines, smiling as he watched this unexpected alliance unfold. As the sun began to set behind the trees, Marcus felt a warmth glow in his chest. It was messy and imperfect, this unity, yet it filled him with hope. He turned to Tara, whose eyes mirrored his own enthusiasm. "We did it. This isn't just one night, though. We have to keep the conversation going." "Absolutely," she replied, a determination set in her eyes. "We'll organize those meetings, host community games. We'll fill the park with laughter and understanding." And as the game continued, Marcus felt the heaviness in his heart lifting. This wasn't just a moment born from conflict. It was a moment that could grow into a legacy, one that spun connections, ignited understanding, and bridged the gaps where once stood division. With each kick and every laugh, the shadows faded into the night, replaced by the warmth of camaraderie. They had embraced something truly special, a community woven together through shared experiences, understanding, and a commitment to do better. In that park, under a sky dusted with stars, they forged a new path forward, a promise that light could triumph over darkness, that connection could root deep, and that hope, once flickering, could shine undeniably bright. As the last of the sunlight slipped into the horizon, Marcus stood there, feeling full of joy and gratitude. They were no longer just strangers. They were a community, and in that moment, he knew, this is just the beginning. If you felt the power of this transformation, if the magic of connection spoke to you, I need you to act right now. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss another exclusive story that touches your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this message of hope far and wide. Comment your reactions and feelings about this beautiful ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. True fans know that your support is the lifeblood of this community.